Hello everybody, welcome to another Valheim video. Today I've got something crazy for you. What if I tell you that there's a bunch of features for the Charred Fortress in the Ashlands that Irongate actually removed? If you look in the game files, you'll find a Charred Fortress shield generator. Not only that, but there's all sorts of other mechanics that they actually put in the game but then took them out for various reasons. Personally, I think it's because we, the players, complained too much and we kind of pressured them to remove some things that are actually really cool. Now, speaking of things that Irongate removed, did you know that for the original shield generators, when they lost power and powered down, they would explode? Yeah, it's true. You want to see what it looks like? Watch this. Oh, it's a beast. It's beautiful. Watch. It builds, and... It's so cool. And this is where the adjustments that we've made start to deviate a little bit. In all honesty, Charred Fortresses are really cool, but they've been kind of nerfed and a lot of the coolness has been removed. And if we're real, players don't use siege weapons to get into them. They just use terrain changes and various other adjustments. So throughout making this script, I've developed it with that in mind. How do we make it so siege weapons are the path of least resistance? And not only that, but actually using them is fun. How do we make it so that raiding charred forts feels different and interesting? Well, I'll get more into that later, but for now, let's show you some action. How does this all start? This script revolves around using catapults with Grouston payloads and siege bombs and molten cores as these sort of grenades that you throw to blow the wall manually. I'll show you this in a moment. For now, let's get started with the catapult. Have you ever noticed that the catapult is kind of hard to aim? Like if you take it around, it often gets kind of stuck in, the terrain, or you'll put it somewhere and then let go, but it kind of rolls back down a little bit, right? Well, now, whenever you put the catapult down and you lower the legs, it'll automatically flatten the terrain. And if you try and do it a second time, it's not gonna happen. You see? It doesn't retain perfect flatness, but it makes it easier to adjust the catapult. Because now we can put the legs down, and then we can pick the catapult up and simply readjust it on this flattened terrain that we have created. And one of the other things that we've done is greatly increased the power and the range of these catapults. You see, in vanilla Valheim, the catapults just don't go very far, and because of that reality, you end up having to get so close to the Charred Fortress that it doesn't really feel like you're sieging it with a catapult, because you're not that far away. So this script is all about making the dynamic focus on catapult gameplay. You see, that shield there isn't just any shield. It's an adjusted shield that is completely impervious to all kinds of damage, except catapult damage. Or if you go in with melee and destroy the shield generator itself. To get the shield to crash, you'll need to use either Grouston payloads or explosive payloads. Grouston payloads go a lot further, so it can be easier to hit the shield and start to weaken it. So here we are, the shield has weakened, and as you can see, once it is weak, it enters this red state. From here on, we could use anything that damages the shield, whether it's magic, an arrow, or Grouston payload, and it's gonna break the shield. I'm gonna use another Grouston payload, and then we can just watch. And there you go, so we broke the shield. And as you can see, it exploded. And that's because every time that you break the shield, there is a chance for something different to happen. And if we give them enough time, they're actually gonna rebuild that shield generator. The amount of time it takes for them to do that can vary from 10 seconds to 2 minutes, but ultimately they're always gonna get it back up and running eventually. And not only that, but they're actually gonna also fix the fortress itself. This gives the player a dynamic where they have a limited amount of time to get back into the fort before the walls start to repair. But be careful, because it's also the skugs that you gotta worry about. And these aren't just normal skugs. These are suppressive skugs, and they have more of a, machine gun kind of feel. You know what? It's kind of weird that it hasn't healed yet, so let's take a closer look. Oh, look at that. Something got a KO. It must have been when the shield generator exploded. There's an altar in here, and once the altar is destroyed, that's when you have actually finished off the fort and you've removed its regenerative abilities. But as I mentioned, this was only one outcome, and believe it or not, this was actually one of the shortest outcomes. There's outcomes on outcomes on outcomes, so it can actually be a pretty long experience. Let's restart it from the beginning and see what happens next. I'm just going to force restart this Charred Fortress, which is going to reset everything from scratch. And while that's working itself out, we're going to be entering the fort in a couple different ways. First, I'll show you another variation of what happens when you break the shield. And then I'll show you how to use these molten cores, which personally I find to be really fun. And already something happened. Well, I got a message saying that they called for reinforcements, and look over there on that hill. We'll just continue as normal, loading up our grouse and payloads into the shield. You'll get a little bit of feedback each time you hit the shield, and any hit anywhere will count. So it's not like you need to be that accurate. And I found that this helps because it's actually a lot harder to hit the fortress in the wall exactly where you want. But this is a pretty big, huge target, and not gonna lie, it's much easier to hit it with the catapult. So now we destroyed the shield and we got the more typical outcome. Earlier, the whole thing exploded, as you saw, but that's actually not what would normally happen. Oh no! So if we look in the chat this time, we can see that we actually got a message saying that the Charred started scrambling to restore their shield. And this is where the layers and layers of RNG start to come in. They're going to make an attempt to refuel the shield every 10 to 120 seconds. That attempt could fail catastrophically and blow the whole fort up, which is what you saw the first time. But that's actually not that common, so we got lucky it happened. And now we're going to switch our ammunition types. Instead of using the groused and payloads, which are further range and good at taking down the shield, we're going to use the explosive payloads. These have been improvised to be even stronger. So instead of just one meek little explosion, you got the satisfaction of just lobbing one or two of these in and going in for it. But let's be real, it's probably pretty suicidal to just run in like that. So you really would want to barrage it down a little bit more and then figure out how to destroy that altar as soon as possible. Because if you don't, everything except the gates are going to rebuild. That's where these molten cores come in. You see, you just run in and you find a spot to toss one, and because it's close to a charred fort, Oh, but look here! Look at this. This is the coolest part. I can't believe this actually happened. Watch. Just, it's gonna speak for itself. And this time you can actually see that the walls did regenerate properly. And that's because that charred altar is still present, leading the fortress to be able to heal itself. And here's one of the other outcomes. These are all RNG, so I can't perfectly make them happen, but this is something you can witness. Did you see that? Yes, it is true. These vergers show up, and then they meander slowly towards the gate. And look what happens when they get there. Yes, it's true. They actually start blowing up the gate. And if enough diverger get to that gate, they will actually blow it up. Not only can you attack the fortress, but sometimes you'll get lucky, and a special group of sieging diverger will show up. And believe it or not, they will actually blow up the front gate and allow you to get in. They'll even help you fight. I can't believe it. This is the kind of stuff that EWP makes possible. It's absolutely insane. You can give NPCs intentions. It's amazing. I've just never felt this kind of thing in Valheim, where the diverger or the NPCs actually participate. As you can see, they even made their way towards this second gate here, and they've been trying to attack it, getting at the corners. Gets really chaotic. And that's something else that happened. I don't know if you caught it, but those Diverger, they actually destroyed the shield generator physically. And yeah, it just went back up. That's because originally it hadn't gotten destroyed, it had just ran out of fuel. You had damaged it enough to deplete it, but they can actually refuel it. And then if you destroy it, they can rebuild it. That's why you gotta get rid of that charred altar to stop this whole sequence of events from happening. And essentially what you just saw was that the Diverger broke their way in. The Diverger siege group happened, they attacked the front gate, and then they got close enough to blow up the shield generator by accident. And as you noticed, it got quite chaotic after that shield generator goes down. Feels like a sudden counterattack, like they've noticed what you're doing and they're reacting. And if you haven't noticed, that's the theme of this whole redo. It's to make the Charred Fortress as reactive of an experience as possible, while also keeping it dynamic and interesting. So no matter what happens, it's a little bit different each time. As you saw there, the Diverger came, they helped us blow the gate, they even got in and down the shield generator. But ultimately, those Diverger alone aren't enough. The Charred recuperated and respawned as soon as that shield generator went down, drove the Diverger out, and then rebuilt the generator. Like, can you even believe that? I can't believe the sentence I just said. Oh, thank goodness for EWP. Expand World Prefabs has changed everything. And if you want to experience this complete overhaul of the Charred Fortress, well, it's actually available for free to download on Valheim World Editing Discord. So if you want to learn more about how this all works, and the craziest part, how it's all completely vanilla compatible, honestly, it's completely and absolutely nuts. And I hope that you are interested in it, because honestly, if you're watching the video at this point, you must be, and you can see why it's so fascinating to me, right? Valheim is something you can adjust and change. If Irongate does something that you think maybe wasn't necessary, you can tweak it and adjust it. It's incredible. Now, back to the task at hand, because believe it or not, I've only scratched the surface of different things that can happen outside of these Charred Fortresses. So let's get into the rest of it now that I really got you interested. As I pointed out earlier, the Charred Fortress pretty much just heals itself, but you'll notice that the metal things don't come back. This was done on purpose because I noticed that people tend to not destroy the gates. Instead, they destroy the walls, or they go up over the walls and then under up into the keep without really doing much of the mechanics. Oh, that's right. Did I mention that now these have a no build zone of 70 meters? And that no build zone gets removed when you destroy that charred altar? Well, it's true. Yep, that's all that it needed. Really, most of the problems come from the fact that you can build and raise the terrain close to the Charred Fortress, so people were always able to just bypass it pretty easily. And don't get me wrong, because I love Irongate, I think they've done incredible work, and from my perspective, they usually do the right thing at first, but they succumb to the pressure of the players. They listen to all these hateful comments and all this complaining about how it's too hard, and then they end up removing some really interesting things. So I hope that you don't take my adjustments the wrong way. I'm not trying to say that Irongate does bad stuff. Irongate does incredible things, and to be honest, they make amazing templates that have this void that you can fill with all kinds of different logic, taking all the different things in their game and doing them in different ways. It's awesome. For now, let's get back to those molten cores. We already blew this gate, so let's go in the fort here with ghost mode on. And let's imagine that we would just toss one pile in here. You get a couple seconds and some warnings, and then you can see that it says, Overeager Jarl armed the cores, and they start to explode. Now, you know, I don't really like to mess around with explosions, to be honest. As far as I'm concerned, if there is an explosion, it should be vast and grand and beautiful. So that's what you get. Yeah, I know, it's 20 molten cores, but come on, you know it's worth it. Another change that was made was to the health of the altar. For some reason, the vanilla altar only has 10 health, so it actually gets destroyed really easily. In particular, the things that destroy it tend to be the troll staff AoE. That AoE is so powerful. I won't go into the details of that. For now, did you see what just happened behind me? Yeah, the Charred Fortress came back, it healed, but then it went away again. Well, that's because if the Charred Fortress fully re-heals, then it can trap players inside of the fort, and that's not ideal. We don't want that. However, as soon as the player gets too far away, then the fortress is just going to repair itself, except this time, the walls are going to stay. So, as you can see, the inner area is now fully repaired, because the damage we did was to the Grouston parts, not to the metal parts, which don't respawn. And these molten core bombs are designed to take out a metal gate and be very useful. You know, originally I didn't have them be this explosive, but it just didn't work because they need to work once. You toss it once and yeah, boom, that's enough. It makes a dent in the situation and will almost always allow you to get through. And honestly, that's something that I feel like the forts were really missing, because they're destructible. It's awesome. It's so fun to destroy them, but players just don't do it because the path of least resistance is to hoe the terrain up, jump in, and then mine under the thing and get in that way. So let's have none of that. In all honesty, once you get that shield down, then you can start using these siege bombs, and they're just so satisfying. Oof. Oh. And this is what I'm talking about. To be honest, I just find it so much fun to do this kind of thing. I really love Irongate. I love their work. But I think they take people's comments too personally. You know, it's so awesome, the kinds of things that they do and some of the ideas that they have before they remove them. They're like top-notch stuff. It's really awesome. So I'm just saying that because I love them. I think they do incredible work. And I'm aware that, you know, we've really betrayed them. We've screwed Irongate over. We've been so ungrateful and we've been so critical. And if you look at what happened to them, like, it's not a surprise, you know? So try and be understanding, okay? It's not easy to suddenly have hundreds of thousands of people knowing about you, talking about you, commenting, criticizing you. It's hard. It's really hard. And most of you making these comments, you don't know anything about this world because you're private. You're, you know, somebody who doesn't have an online presence. So you don't have to deal with people regularly reaching out to you and talking shit about you because of some social media post that has nothing to do with anything you've ever done. So come on, let's have some sympathy for Irongate. I don't want people to take this video the wrong way. I really love what they've done. And if it wasn't for what they've done, none of this would be possible. Oh, and here we go. Look at that. Some Diverger Raiders are gathering again. Let's look for them and find out where they are. Aha, here they are. They're over close by to the fortress. Now, these honestly are my favorite part. That's why I'm double dipping and going back into this part of the script. It's just so cool. As you saw, they start over here, but then they actually start heading towards the fort. And they're going to target the gate. There's one gate left. You think they're gonna make it? Let's see, I won't even enter. Oh, well, the shard got the shield generator back on. And they've got some pretty extreme force advantage here. But the Diverger mages have AoE. I don't know. I'd say it could go either way. All this fuss for one little gate. It's that center gate, you can see. It's the only one left. Somehow the Diverger know they're trying to get there. But honestly, the odds for the Diverger without the player's help are pretty low. They're not always going to succeed. And that's the true magic of this whole experience. I'm not kidding when I say it really is different each time. And this is a mentality we can apply to anything. Increase the variability. Make it more immersive in the long run. Make it more fun to raid these things with your friends. Now, if you like this stuff, I got a secret for you. You see that whole system I've been showing in the video? Well, that's actually just this one script. It's Expand Prefabs Spicer. Look at all these other ones. Yeah, let's just say that for the past year, I've been obsessed about this, going nuts, and pretty much just scripting all day. So, I've got something to share with you. Because these scripts, well, actually, these are only just the spicers for all of the different things like burial chambers, charred fortresses, frost caves, goblin camps, all of that. It's not even all the scripts. Actually, it's only, well, let's say there's 4,600 something different changes and counting. I've been adding a couple a day for a while now. So if this kind of stuff is something you enjoy, well, guess what? It's publicly available on Path of Magic. And even better, the new season in preparation of Deep North has just begun as of this video. Yeah, you heard me right. The path to Deep North has launched. This is one of the longest paths on any Valheim server that exists. I'm not saying it is the longest, but it is one of them, stretching from the center of the world through multiple examples of every single biome that the game has to offer. Crossing over oceans and chasms, these paths allow players to experience no map, no portal Valheim in a whole new way. When you first join Path of Magic, you'll start at the center of the world. And this is the same path that you just saw. It goes through meadows, black forests, mistlands, and more. Everything the game has to offer can be experienced on the Path of Magic. The Path of Magic features a different progression system than what you're used to. Instead of killing the boss, you have to gather certain resources and then turn them into the boss chest. Once you've turned in all of the supplies, then you just close the chest. Whoop-de-doo, look at that. Open it back up, and you'll see that you've been rewarded. Not only do you get the progression items that you'd normally get from killing the boss, but you also get introduced to some new mechanics that you're not used to. And don't worry, fighting bosses hasn't been removed from the game. But let's just say that if you think the bosses are something that you can kill without getting magic and a bunch of powerful gear, you're in for a surprise. Because the Forsaken on Path of Magic are proper gods, not something you can just destroy with a crude bow in the meadows. Let's have some respect. And that's where this progression system comes in. This way, we have quest-based progression, leaving each player free to progress as they please, without being worried about ruining the world's progression for everybody else. On Path of Magic, that's not a problem. And the same can be said for dungeons. Dungeons restart on a schedule twice a week. For example, take a look at this beautiful goblin camp. Wow, quite a beast, right? It's huge. Let's say I managed to somehow kill all of the goblin in this camp. Well, normally, that's it. They're all gone. This isn't an interesting spot anymore. You don't need to wait for the server to restart and apply all the updates on Tuesday and Thursday or something like that. Because all you have to do is take 999 coins and plop them down. You have 10 seconds to get out of the way, and then boom, whoop-de-doo, the whole entire goblin camp's gonna reset all around you. Look at that. And then all the goblin come back in fresh. As you get started on the Path of Magic, most people are probably overwhelmed by the no map, no portal situation. But don't worry, with time you'll get used to it. This master path that crosses through the entire world of Valheim in many different biomes in many different places provides you with ample opportunity to get you back to your body should you die. And Path of Magic is a almost fully communal server. You're free to use any of the bases that you find. You know, if someone's actively playing in a base, you should probably leave them alone so you don't ire them. But almost all of these bases aren't active, especially this early on the path. You're free to get started wherever you please. And if it looks like no one's been playing there, you can even improve upon their buildings, add more to what they've done. That's the attitude we have here at Path of Magic. You know, for some reason, you just don't find that many wards here on Path of Magic. I've never really figured it out. Honestly, I don't know what it is. I've just never figured out that there must be something about the wards that causes people maybe, I don't know, to not trust them or something. I'm not really sure, you know? We'll just have to leave it up to a mystery, a Path of Magic mystery that we've never quite figured out. Why is it that people don't use wards or put them in their bases? I mean, I'm not really sure. As you progress down the Path of Magic, you're gonna see what was there before, the players who once were. Dark Souls style tombs that let you know that at some point somebody died here, so maybe you should be a little bit careful. Sometimes if you're lucky, you can even say their name. As you first start progressing down the path of magic, you'll see plenty of bases and other spaces for you to get started. But as you travel further down this magical path, you'll find it more and more dangerous, more often mistlands than Black Forest. The path itself weaves in and out of different biomes, maximizing the chance of monster-on-monster combat, one of my favorite things about Valheim. And the path itself is, let's just say, inhumanly long. I won't spoil too much of it, but you could look at it this way. The path to magic gets to the deep north by going through the Ashlands. And if you get through the Ashlands and you get all the way around, you'll eventually find the end of the path of magic. At least for now. Once Irongate releases the Deep North, then the Deep North is going to get a path too. And the path is going to wrap all the way around the entirety of the world. As you can see, some players have already started preparing. So there you have it. This is just a small tease, but consider this my formal invitation to you to join the Path of Magic, a public, free-to-play Valheim experience that completely reworks most of the game. I'm not afraid to make things hard or challenging, and I try and go for what I believe that Irongate originally intended. So bear with me, because there's often a lot of adjusting things, but what you see is the work of a year's worth of accumulation, and over 2,000 different player deaths throughout. So why not join now? You got plenty of time to get started, get to learn the ropes, and then get yourself established before the Deep North launches, and you can come try it out on the most immersive mode, no map, no portal. Yeah, that's right. I know, you don't like no map, no portal, but trust me, it's completely different on a communal server with a big path to lead you home, a bunch of bases to act as landmarks and keep you safe, and some cool friendly people who are going to help you out if something goes wrong. If you like this kind of stuff, then consider renting your own dedicated Valheim server to practice EWP on. EWP is the vanilla-compatible mod that you put on the server. That's how all of this has been created. It's all thanks to EWP. If you want to learn more about EWP, I've got lots of tutorials for you. I've been trying to spread the awareness of this incredible thing because it really is awesome. Alternatively, if you want to support my work, then consider supporting me on Patreon. It really means a lot that people actually support me there, and honestly, I don't need anybody to do that, but it definitely does motivate me knowing that people have had so much fun on this server that they've asked to pay me. That is not something I ever expected. So thanks to everybody and to all of the other people who've played and participated and donated or whatever you've done. Honestly, the most beneficial thing is actually playing and enjoying the experience. Because I don't know if you've noticed, but I don't know what I'm doing. I figure this stuff out as I go. I watch what players do and I try and make things more fun. That's pretty much it. I'm not trying to make a different game. I'm trying to make Valheim more Valheim. That's why I've been running the same Valheim world for a year and a half. Buildings are more impactful when you know they're gonna last, when people use them in the future, and you can log back in and see that things have changed. That's my motto. Thanks for watching, everybody. And as always, if you want to support my work and everyone else's, just like this video or any other video about Valheim. Oh yeah, you can join Path of Magic by joining the Poolside Discord, link in the description. Thanks for watching.